everyone. Thank you for tuning into this session on design systems. From past few years, design systems continue to explode in popularity among tech startups to organizations of various scales are leveraging them to save money and time in their quest to build inspiring digital products. In this session, from design to code, we will try to unlock and share our learnings about design systems, both from a developer and a designer perspective. Let us introduce ourselves very quickly and then get started. Hi, I'm Vinod, been part of this organization since 9.5 years, and I'm working as a senior architect at Experience Technology. I'll be happy to connect with you all via LinkedIn and Twitter. The information is available on the screen. My love for design system has evolved with various experiences. This includes implementing a design system from scratch, maintaining one, and being a consumer of one, and also from not implementing one at all, where it could have been a game changer.
Hello everyone, I am Rajesh. I have been with PS since last 8.5 years and working as senior art director. If you would like to connect with me, here is my Twitter handle and LinkedIn account's QR code. In my experience at PS, I have been engaged in many projects to work on design systems and always have been fascinated with their power and flexibility.
There is a sea of talks about design systems in past few years. At the same time, because this topic is so vast, there will always be a scope for new talk and experiment. In this talk, based on data-backed inputs and our experiences, we have following perspective to talk about. I sometimes think, why does a particular word start with a certain letter and not other? There are not always logical answers to these stupid little thoughts, but I found one for technology. I believe every technology topic has a breadth, which represents awareness, and a depth, which represents expertise. This talk's content too has both of these sides, and we truly believe this diverse audience will find their association across one of these axes. Let me start by telling you a story from some of my earlier project deliveries. I'm sure most of you will resonate with it. Whenever we started a new project, we were super excited up until we faced a wall of hurdles. These hurdles range from understanding of the solution to delivery quality to communication and staying true to product's core objective itself. Under the weight of these hurdles, our excitement faded, and too often we found ourselves into the sea of sorrow. After burning midnight oil and struggling for months in refactoring and redesigning, we eventually found success, but at the great expense of happiness. As a result, we quickly wanted to do a new thing where we could gain a better delivery experience. But apart from minor improvements, almost same story repeated itself. We needed an antidote which could flatten this curve and make our delivery experience not so bumpy ride. We found one in design systems. Let me take an example to explain design systems better. Since this also happens to be one of the most misunderstood concepts thanks to its oversimplified name, design, and systems. A forest is a perfect design system of nature. It is an ecosystem where everything grows organically because everything has a purpose. As a result, even after human exploitation or a devastating wildfire, a forest knows how to preserve itself and regenerate if we let it be. After all, the ecosystem in nature has helped vegetation evolve for 430 million years on Earth. We must provide our project with an evolutionary ecosystem. It should enable us with tools, processes, and purpose to continuously evolve our projects so that they can also survive and find their best of the forms. I absolutely believe that design system is that ecosystem. Gina is one of most well-regarded design system advocate. She describes design systems perfectly. In our client products, we have a need to build cohesive, consistent visual experiences with great efficiency and irrespective of technology and platforms. That is the beauty of building a design system. By deciding on a detail and global patterns once, you free up your entire product development team to focus on solving actual business problems. These are some of the main advantages of design systems. I have borrowed them from Sarah Porter. the ultimate value of consistency across application and platforms. Increase in consistency and reusability speeds up implementation, which results into reduced time and cost to market. Reducing internal communication, pain points, and inefficiencies. Investing in a design system means investing in communication and collaboration. A shared point of reference by encouraging and enabling cross-functional collaboration. In month of August, we did a PS-wide survey to learn about encounters and missions from our community with respect to design systems. Thanks everyone who participated and encouraged others to do the same. This exercise was a pleasant one for two reasons. We collected some meaningful data from the supercharged community, and we had an opportunity to interact with many like minded people across geographies, which otherwise might not be possible. We had received a total of 305 responses from people of various specialized domains. About 61% participants who had experience with design systems rated its positive impact on projects to be 4.2 out of 5. These survey results prompted us to conduct another exercise. I requested some of my friends in XT community working in 5 different projects where a robust design system was not in place. We asked them to run a few simple Jira queries, keywords such as color, font, border, and spacing. Numbers you see on the screen are an average of 5 different projects. The amount of time and effort and cycles needed for these defects to get fixed could easily pay for many new features and also improve the profitability of the project. This problem grows exponentially with time and size of the project. More importantly, these 4 categories are a very small subset of real bigger problems that happen in absence of robust design systems. Let us take an example that we can all relate to. Let us consider two possibilities. One, you have no design system. Second, you have somewhat partial one. I'm sure most of you in your experiences must have been part of one of these two roles. Design and the UX team engages with clients first because of various factors like global distributed delivery, staffing, and costs, etc. The design team develops the product and prototypes. Once clients approves it, we go ahead and kick off development and the holy ritual of handoff and KT starts between development and design team. While the KT happens with some back and forth, all seems hunky dory, and then eventually design team transitions into their next assignment, and soon all hell breaks loose for developers. A disaster follows and results into a story we just saw in Jira on last slide. In a simple analogy, what happened between design and development team is loss in transmission, which is a serious enough problem for power companies. But for us, the equivalent is information loss, which is catastrophic. These handoff calls have their importance, but clearly it is not a great and everlasting medium to preserve information. This process left a lot of design decisions unknown to development team, which resulted into loss of historical consciousness of the entire team. There wasn't any common language of communication between these teams, so there wasn't any single source of truth that both teams can believe into. The last but not the least, there wasn't any supportive living documentation for development team that they could always refer to. As a result, the design principles of the project and the brand were unclear to the development team. So what is the answer to these kind of information loss in a design system?
One of the silver bullet to solve these challenges is design tokens. Let's understand what they are. We all love to apply Brad Frost atomic design philosophy. With atomic design philosophy, we break and represent our application into smaller manageable components. Atoms are the smallest foundation unit, like buttons and images. Multiple of atoms logically come together and form molecules like product card. Atoms and molecules then form organisms to represent more purposeful design blocks like a header or hero component. Then multiple organisms form templates and pages for our applications. Design tokens goes few level more down towards the foundation of atomic philosophy. They are like a subatomic particles that represent and preserve your design options in form of variables. These variables, if crafted thoughtfully with context, could persist all kind of design decisions. As per a design system expert Nathan Curtis, a system's strength comes from knowing how to apply options like color brand 08 to context like a background color for primary button. This ground options as a decision. A design token library can include one or many more level of tokens depending upon the need. The first and topmost is global, which always represent an option without context. For an example, here color 08, color 10, you can assign any kind of color into it. Next is alias, where a token starts to represent a context and a design decision. For an example, here color primary and color primary active. After that comes component level, which applies a context about where this token should be used. At the last, we have state category to represent the state of components like active and disabled. At a broad level, these are four types of design tokens, but nothing stops you from creating deeper classifications too. The only thumb rule is to go from abstract to specific with purpose. This will help your tokens follow a naming convention for which your consumers would not need to open style guide every time they use a token. Design tokens are lifesavers. When you are rebranding or just making very precise changes across your products, for example, a color change in global token is super easy to drive down to all products.
So design tokens are really a bridge between designer and developer workflows. You can ship a lot of design decisions through them, including fonts, colors, sizes, and even motion and interactions. And these tokens can then be transformed into different formats to support various types of applications you might have, headless, legacy, or even native mobile applications. Let's try this through a quick demo. Let us try this in action. The complete demo is available in these two repositories for your reference and tinkering. The first repo contains design tokens transformation and publishing workflow. The second one is the small React library with storybook and style components consuming the tokens. Feel free to fork and suggest improvements with pull request. In this demo, we have used following tools. There's a lot of tooling available in this space, but still there is a void because every tool has one limitation or another. That is why it's quite difficult to know for sure that what you are trying to do is the right way or not. Tooling isn't very important here, but the process and our final objective is.
When we create values and their structures, the organization and layer naming convention is very important. Many tools claims to be naming and structure agnostic, but we found otherwise hard way. It would be good practice to start an open source template like we did with Ant Design example and customize it. Let me use this token library and export the tokens for development team to consume. Here you can see all your tokens.
In this workflow between designer and developer, we want to make design tokens available to all teams. At the same time, maintaining a single source of truth is also important. The best way is to create an NPM package for it, since they can be versioned for each and every change. It also enables teams to control when they want to adopt new updates. So let us create and clone this repo, then initialize NPM package config for design tokens. We will be using Amazon's style dictionary NPM package to transform design tokens into various formats. Just install it and create source directory and index file for it. Style Dictionary has really good documentation, an example for its various capabilities. It can be used with JSON config, JavaScript API, and a combination of both. Let's create JSON config file and define target conversion formats. Although in this demo, I only intend to consume JS format, but it will be good to have a look at other conversion formats as well. Now let's go back to the index file and create an entry point for style dictionary. We will also supply the config we have just now created. Now finalize the config for transformation targets. First is to set transformation groups to be used in transformation, where to output transform tokens, and then what should be the file name and its format. For rest of the formats, I have simply copied standard config from style dictionary documentation. We can also supply a prefix, but I don't like my tokens to be too long. Finally, we define the source destination to read the row JSON tokens. And then copy row token files to the source directory and then run build command. We have different transform formats. Let us push this to GitHub now. We will make use of GitHub Actions to rebuild new version of NPM package whenever we detect any change. To do so, we need to set GitHub an NPM token since it's the scope package that we are trying to publish. Let's commit actions config to master branch. We will trigger first release manually, but for subsequent versions, we will change action to run on every push. Now we can see on NPM, we have version 1 of our package published. Next step in this workflow is to set up a component library. We will do that in fast-forward manner. We will use Create React app as foundation with Storybook. Now let's add few packages we are going to need. I'm sure most of you know about them all. Prop type for declaring prop types. Style component for encapsulating styles within component itself. and plot for fast and consistent scaffolding of new components. I have quickly copied block configuration here from one of my another open source project. Then add a script to start plot. Now let's initialize storybook and add few useful storybook dependencies. Clean up the create react tab files and set up a directory structure for the component library. I always prefer to scaffold based on atomic design because it helps you find things more easily. In style directory, we will define global CSS for library and all the projects which will consume it, since we don't want teams to get different defaults. We will then include a light CSS reset in the global styles. Let us now install our design tokens package. Then we import our design tokens into theme. And export them all as individual properties. Now we head over to storybook configuration and apply our global CSS and theme. To make theme available across all components, we make use of theme provider from shell components. Now it's time for Flock to do its thing. I just love this tool. It's super easy to maintain and so much flexible to use. We have generated a button component in Atoms. Let us define button CSS by applying design tokens. Because our design tokens are organized in contextual manner, they are very much predictable and easy to apply. We will copy and apply styles for secondary button variation as well in the same manner. Let us now add all variations of button into Storybook with MDX. We see our design tokens are getting applied. Let us now bring a change in our design itself and see how our design system is able to adopt it.
Let's change one color. Save and refresh.
We have received a change in primary background base color. We will push these changes to GitHub, and GitHub Action will detect a change and build a new version of NPM module for us. We will apply this new version to the comfort library and restart Storybook. We can see without modifying actual implementation of our component, our changes are getting applied. In design systems, documentation is very important. In Storybook, the MDX format has made it super easy and very powerful at the same time. We can use it to document not only component variations, but also our design principles and other best practices for our teams. This literally removes the need for a separate documentation site we usually have in design systems.
Coming back to the survey again, via multiple choice questions, we also asked our community, what are the main entities of your design system? These were the answers. That's why various definitions define design system as a collection of all above entities and many more. Guided by clear purpose, it can be assembled to build any number or any type of applications. In this survey, these numbers are quite uneven, which means design system adoptions teams follow a fluid composition or core entities based on their team composition or requirements. For example, a component or patterns library and style guide are part of most responses, but content guidelines, design principles, accessibility guidelines, and many other are not that universal. To me, this is an indication of potential improvement in our design systems ecosystem because each of these entities serve a unique purpose and equally important as well.
One of the most interesting questions out of the survey was, does your project has a design system? And if yes, then what kind? 60% of people accepted that they are currently using a design system on their project. 11% were leveraging an open source one like material design. 49% are working with an in-house purpose-built one. 17% are not aware about design systems yet. 18% are not using one at the moment. The biggest pie, purpose-built design systems. Did that surprise you? Honestly, I was a bit surprised. Another data in survey also indicated most of such implementations to be on large or DBT projects. And then it started to make little more sense. There is a similar trend in global survey, Set of Design Systems 2019 as well. Any kind of design system is better than no design system at all. I believe that applies to all kind of projects because design system bring a lot of order into chaotic situations. There are some scenarios where you can't just do without one. This is where purposefully crafted design system shines. First aspect in this situation is distributed application architecture, be it a multi-app or micro content. Second is a wide target area of digital channels via responsive, adaptive, or native mobile applications. How does a team decide what kind of a design system they need? There isn't a really binary answer to that because the question is a subjective one. On a high level, I have tried to put this perspective across these two axes. And honestly, I do feel there could be more aspects to look at it. Do share your opinion in comments or in later connects. The y axis is how much flexibility you want to represent your brand identity and your usage patterns. More flexibility means more customizations. and only a purpose-built design system could be able to fulfill your ask. On axis, how much time and money you want to invest in building a design system. Out of the box one will give you less flexibility, but save a lot of time and money. A word of clarification here. When I talk about purpose-built one for the brand, I don't mean to reinvent the wheel, but to choose what kind of wheels are optimal for you across these two axes. When I initially started learning about design systems few years back, I didn't really give a lot of attention to design principles. I just scrolled through those parts in blogs, but as my experience grew, I realized how important they really were. I'm sure audiences from design and US community must swear by this book. I have very recently started reading it. It's a compilation of 150 universal design principles, which get applied in designing products based on how they represent brands' core value and helps communicate their end users with purposeful intent. Therefore, all design systems too must define and publish their design principles. Their goal is to keep the design system team and its consumers honest along the way and help create intended experience for the end users of the brand. Principles are always driven from purpose of your brand and personality. Their impact is felt by both internal and external users. Principles should be tool agnostic and should keep you in line with the user experience objectives. How does a brand wants to connect with their users from choices of responsive, adaptive, and native is an example of such a guiding principle. Since I'm not a brand identity expert, I would instead focus here on principles which can help us drive better adoption of our design system within our teams so that it keeps evolving with the need of the brand and stays relevant for a longer period of time. An example of adoption focused principle could be consistency over perfection. See, design systems by nature supports flow of changes with iterations into applications very easily. Maintaining single source of truth should be the biggest focus. We should tackle inconsistencies component by component and make sure the way components are built and organized follows a predictable pattern. One of the first principles every design system team should follow is inclusiveness. Design systems are meant for everyone and it should allow a wide range of expertise to contribute. These are our internal survey results from 195 responses. To me, this uneven data doesn't look to represent a very healthy team composition. We can see here that each domain lacks representation, and that is why unable to bring their expertise to the table. For example, copywriters being an inclusive part of design system team could address how content changes into multiple languages could be tackled as part of design system. One of the hardest activity in computer science is to name things. Establishing a solid naming culture could streamline a lot of communication and redundancy related challenges. This will take the efficiency of your entire team to the next level. This screenshot is from one of my previous projects I did many years ago. I'm yet to come across a better representation. And I must admit, such practices are not adopted enough. This naming culture clearly breaks down the UI as per atomic design, goes further and assigns a unique ID to each entity, establishes many relationships like what it is called, where it is used, which teams owns it. The same strategy could be further extended to granular variations too. When a developer needs to talk to another team member over chat, in documentation, or in Jira, all that they need to do is mention the ID and they will eliminate all the chances of misunderstanding. The fundamental best practices in software development is do not repeat yourself. Stay dry, we say. In a way, this applies to all domains. A very fundamental and essential question, which often gets overlooked in favor of outcomes, is whether something should really exist. Reusability should start with what you already have. An audit of inventory to know what already exists should be done. The basic building blocks of your design system should work well with compositions. Composition is also one of the core principles of component driven development. We should design and develop components considering composition opportunities so that the same design elements can be reused in many different contexts. This will make your user experience more predictable and easier for the end users to understand. Often, misconceptions even coexist alongside the correct concepts. One of the main misconceptions with design system is we simply don't have time. In contrast, The core purpose of design system is to save time and effort. Single point of failure is considered one of the main criticism of design systems. In reality, it is a glass half full versus glass half empty perception. To handle this better, a right fragmentation strategy is required because it can save a lot of time in current situations. For example, let's say all the components get exported through a single NPM package. The strategy is good for the initial phase of the project because you have a lot of appetite to consume a lot of bugs and new components. But in final stages, this will pose a challenge because from the library, there might be a lot of unwanted fixes might be coming your way whenever you want to just fix a one single defect. That is why I prefer having both single unified package and a fragmented individual packages generated from the same code base. This way, project team can plan and move to the right fragmented strategy at a suitable time and have a better control on what they want to consume at what point of time. This is another popular misconception. That is why I wanted to gain insight from our community. In the survey, this is how 195 people responded to this question. I think deviations are not good because it defeats the purpose of design system itself. If you feel restricted, then evolving design system should be your next step to free yourself up. Before I rest my case, let me put a closing argument. If I am to use a simpler and relatable analogy to explain the impact of design system, I will confidently compare it with Agile and its impact on program management. As per a 2019 study, 97% of organizations are now practicing Agile development methods. But unfortunately, the same adoption is not there for design systems. If you like design systems like us, we highly recommend these inspirational talks to you if you haven't watched them already. We leave you with this beautiful quote while you have your adventures with design systems. Thank you for listening to us for this much long. We also want to extend our sincere thanks to these behind the scene heroes who helped us improve our talk by many, many reviews and active contribution.